look, I got to be honest with you guys. I naively thought that there were some things that were kind of off the table, right? That like, yeah, society's evolved enough on this stuff where we're good on these things, right? And so one of those things is genocide. That, yeah, look, there's disagreement about wars and about certain things, but at the end of the day, if we looked at a situation where you have just an exterminationist project, where you have one group of people absolutely slaughtering over 90% civilians of this other group of people, the people would be like, okay, we're universally against that, right? I was wrong. Look at Gaza. Look what Israel's doing. There's so many people. The dominant narrative in the media is to defend the genociders, right? So I was naive. Another thing I was naive about is something like our social freedoms. Yeah, they got the right to people are pro-choice. It's protected in the law. That's probably not going to change. You can't just take away rights, It's one thing if we never had it and you're fighting to get a new one. That's harder to do, like getting right to healthcare, for example. But if you already have it, they're not just going to roll it back. Wrong. They did exactly that. They rolled it back. Roe v. Wade was overturned. We see what's happening in the conservative states. Well, here's another one. Porn. Who the fuck in their right mind would think that in what's supposed to be a liberal Western democracy, there would be a move towards like, hey, we should do like what the Taliban does, right? We should try to ban this. So you're taking away people's right to see some titties and booty? Really? You're making it harder for people to see some titties. We live in a country where everybody's overworked, everybody's stressed to the gills, everybody has anxiety, people are working multiple jobs just trying to get by. We live in a society like that. And you want to say, hey, by the way, we're also going to take away your ability to see tits and ass. Are you begging for a revolution? Is that what you're doing? Are you begging for a revolution? Look at this. Supreme Court declines to block Texas pornography restriction. The pornography industry challenged the state law's age verification provision, saying it places an unlawful burden on adults wishing to access content. The Supreme Court on Tuesday refused to block, on free speech grounds, a provision of Texas law aimed at preventing minors from accessing pornographic content online. The justices turned away a request made by the Free Speech Coalition, a pornography industry trade group, as well as several companies. The challenger said the 2023 law violates the Constitution's First Amendment by requiring anyone using the platforms in question, including adults, to submit personal information. One provision of the law, known as HB 1181, mandates that platforms verify users' ages by requesting them to submit information about their identities. Although the law is aimed at limiting children's access to sexually explicit content, the lawsuit focuses on how those measures also affect adults. Specifically, the act requires adults to comply with intrusive age verification measures that mandate the submission of personally identifying information over the internet in order to access websites containing sensitive and intimate content, the challengers wrote in court papers. In response, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton wrote in his own brief that the state law simply requires the pornography industry that makes billions of dollars from peddling smut to take commercially reasonable steps to ensure that those who access the materials are adults. A federal judge ruled that the provision at issue was problematic because it has a much broader impact than merely restricting access to minors. But on appeal, the Fifth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals ruled for the state on a 2-1 vote and refused to put its decision on hold pending Supreme Court review. In the aftermath of that decision, several online pornography platforms, including Pornhub, barred people in Texas from accessing their site out of concern about the provisions going into effect. So, in other words, I'll break this down into layman's terms for you. Texas, but it's not just Texas. It's a bunch of states now across the country. They're falling like dominoes, one by one by one. They say, hey, are you in a private moment? Are you trying to beat your meat? Well, let me interrupt you and say, first you got to give me your driver's license. Yeah, give me your driver's license. What we need to do is verify that you're an adult. And we'll also, hey, trust me, bro, we're not going to take your information and have a file. Here's Bob Smith. Here's what Bob Smith whacks off to. Don't worry, trust us, give us a photo ID, but don't worry, it's okay. We're just doing this because what about the children? Think of the children, bro. What about the children? Excuse me, if you're worried about the children, that's on the fucking parents. You don't want your kids surfing the internet and coming across a whole bunch of adult content? Great, I agree. Well, you better fucking do some parenting then. What's that old thing called? Parenting? Getting involved? saying, hey, little Jimmy's looking at titties. We're going to have to not have that happen. Take away his computer, right? Put some settings on the computer where you make it so he's not going into those things. Monitor them. Look at what they're doing, right? Instead of just having, hey, parenting is a thing. Parents should parent. Instead of doing that, let's get the government involved. What happened? I thought all these Republicans and all these conservatives we're against big government, tyranny, jackbooted thugs getting involved in our lives. Get out of our lives. Except when it comes time for you to beat off, in which case I want big government looking over your shoulder, taking your driver's license down, having your picture there, and in excruciating detail going through everything you like to beat your meat to. What are we doing here? Can't imagine a bigger, more intrusive government than this. You want the government having a file on what you're into? Come on, man. And now the Supreme Court's like, no, perfectly legal, perfectly fine. This rule is fine. Make no mistake about it. This is a backdoor attempt, no pun intended, a backdoor attempt to ban porn, right? It's a backdoor attempt to ban porn. They want to make it so far fewer people do it. And by the way, Project 2025, the whole the Republican agenda that's laid out there for the world to see, they write it out in plain terms. Yes, ban pornography. They think it's unchristian. They think it's untraditional, and they want to get rid of it. I can't look again. I'm going to repeat myself here. I can't imagine a situation where everybody's stressed to the gills, everybody's working way too hard, everybody's got all these problems, and then the government has the nerve to come in and say, I'm going to put a massive roadblock in the way so that you can't even jack off. And the Supreme Court, I don't want to hear another fucking word from any of these people about freedom. I don't want to hear another fucking word. They want to make it so that your most intimate details about your sex life are meticulously, followed. They know every little thing that you're into, and they have a fucking file on it. You're supposed to just trust them, right? It's an attempt to put a roadblock to make it so you ban porn. That's what this is. And by the way, as we talk, more and more states are falling. And they all do it under the guise of the children bullshit. Look, the fact... My whole life, that's been viewed as like a debate ender. What about the kids? What about the kids? They did this for weed too, right? When the conversations were first starting to happen about, hey, maybe we should legalize this. Hey, maybe we shouldn't lock people up and ruin their lives over this. But what about the kids? Bitch, nobody's talking about the kids. It's still going to be illegal for kids to smoke weed. Literally nobody is saying let a 7-year-old smoke weed. Literally nobody. By the same token, nobody's here saying, hey, let little Bobby access Pornhub or whatever. Nobody's saying that. Nobody's saying that. But what they're doing is an unreasonable restriction on adults wanting to do adult things. And by the way, just for the record, I think somebody would be crazy to send there. Yeah, I'm going to send you my driver's license and then go visit my specific kink that I'm into. You think Jeff in Tuscaloosa wants people to know he's a fucking feet guy? He doesn't want people to know that, right? Oh, God. Jesus Christ. What the fuck is this country coming to, man? They're even coming for the porn. No pun intended yet again. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.